Today on an all-new Dr. Phill. They look like the perfect couple, but looks,
once you get behind closed doors, it's pure hell.
Can be deceiving.
You say that you physically cheated on Mandy twice.
Yes.
Keep sexual videos on the computer that your daughters use.
The accusations.
You are offended that she won't be sexually intimate with you, right?
I keep telling her, when she fixes that, I'll fix me.
The arguments.
You're a liar, you're a cheater, you're just nasty, you're just disgusting.
The unanswered questions.
You knew what was going on when you had a child with him.
Well, I had an idea he's not entirely faithful.
Plus, the most shocking admission of all.
Most recent girl, Mandy doesn't know about yet.
This is going to be a changing day in your life.
Have a good show, everybody. Here we go.
It matters to you. That's what I want to talk about. Are we ready in the booth? Let's do it. Now, Brett and Mandy appear to be like the all-American family living in any neighborhood USA. But more often than not, what happens behind closed doors can sometimes uncover shocking revelations.
We appear to be normal on the outside. We do family vacations, go to the park with our kids.
Once you get behind closed doors, it's pure hell.
He's addicted to sex. He has to have it all the time. When he doesn't get it, he finds outside resources.
Before I met Mandy, I got involved with a swinger club and went to a lot of social gatherings where there was hundreds of people in a hotel doing sexual things. I've had sex with between 60 and 100 women.
He mentioned the swinger lifestyle. I thought he was joking. I just instantly felt repulsed.
During her first pregnancy, I started to get back on the computer and get that desired.
I learned from text messages that he had started talking to an ex and had stayed overnight at her house. One text was, "Hey Brett, I left my lube in your truck." He admitted that they fooled around in my truck a little bit. I, to my core, do not believe that. I think they had sex.
Adult Friend Finder was one of the websites. You log on and then you're just clicks away from meeting people. Some of the women on there just want to chat. Some of them want nude pictures, nude video. They want cyber sex. I don't meet them. I get my stimulation from being wanted. So once I get to that point, then I move on, find another one. My visits to the site correspond with our moods here at home.
He's being unfaithful. It's just not acceptable to talk to other women in a sexual manner. To me, he is a liar and a cheater.
We have sex maybe twice a year. She uses my indiscretions as the excuse not to have sex. She states that if I loved her, I wouldn't talk to other girls. But I, in the same breath, say if you love me, then you would give me what I need.
It's really hard for me to be intimate and affectionate with him.
I haven't been given a reason to stop. When you're not getting something at home, what do? You go out and look for it. If you don't have a car, you go out and buy one.
You were commenting during the tape. What was it you were commenting on?
I was just commenting on the way I looked in the camera. Nothing big.
Nothing important.
How'd you look?
Like my dad.
Looked like your dad?
Yeah.
It's interesting you were focused on how you looked. What'd you think about what you were saying?
Well, to us, it's commonplace. We've been going through this for several years now, so.
Is this commonplace to you?
It's been going on for so long that, I mean, it really is part of our daily life. It really is.
Is this your normal?
Yeah.
Tell me what your mindset is in coming here today. What's your objective? What's your goal?
I'd like to get help for both of us.
Help with what?
Our relationship. My problems, her problems, our problems together.
Do you have a problem?
Yes.
What is it?
I look at sex in a way that's not correct.
So you think it's wrong to do?
So, yeah.
Because you said, well, this is just commonplace. This is just my normal. Because, I made a list. You say that you physically cheated on Mandy twice, right? Once with oral sex, and the other time you just kissed another girl, and that's all. Mm-hmm. You have frequent sex chats on the website daily. You trade nude pictures and videos with women online. So you get naked and tape this and share it with strange women online.
Yes, I have, yes.
And I use strange in two ways. One, you don't know them, and the other, that's really strange to me. You talk and text sexual conversation with women. You said you've had group sex, threesomes, you're a member of a sex club, you rented a hotel for a sex party. You talk to 4 or 5 women at a time online when you're with Mandy. I mean, at home, right? You keep sexual video and pictures on the main computer that your daughters use? So this has just become commonplace to you? Tell me what would upset you?
It all upsets me. I just
Well, you seem to kind of have accepted it. Like, I mean, it's just kind of...
I just have kind of become numb to it because we've argued, we've fought, we've been to counseling, we've tried to tackle the problem. I've cried, I've begged. You know, to me, I've done everything I could do to try to get it through to him that this hurts me to my core. This makes me feel absolutely worthless, unloved, unrespected. You know, he's not grateful for the life that me and our children have given him. You know, so it's not just something that I want to accept, but I don't know what else to do.
Well, you know, he kind of blames you for this.
Oh, I know he does. He's blamed me for it since the first time I found him doing it.
Really?
I take the blame too. So don't say I put full...
Up until a very, very short time ago, he didn't take the blame. It's been a long, hard road getting him to even admit that it was wrong.
Well, do you think you have an addiction, a sexual addiction?
Some days I do, some days I don't.
Really? I mean, some days you think it, or some
Yeah.
days you have it, and some days you don't?
No, some days I think it, some days I, you know.
Okay. Because if you have a sexual addiction, then it wouldn't be about her, it would be about the addiction.
It was there before I came along.
But weren't you doing this before you met her?
Yes. But I also
So how is that
stopped
my fault?
when we met.
No. When I moved to Wyoming to be with him when we first got together. And within a month of me being there, I found chats with girls. It wasn't like over the top sexual, the few that I found. It was just kind of like having another girl to talk to, maybe in case I didn't actually move out there with him. So me being a trusting person, and you know, I said, okay.
Wait a minute. Come on. Let's just get down to it. You fully knew what was going on when you had a child with him, correct?
I wouldn't say I fully knew. I had an idea that, okay, he's not entirely faithful. Yeah. And yeah, I look at it now, and I should have packed my stuff and ran. I should have.
Well, that's what I'm asking you. What would upset you? You had a second baby with him after you knew everything he was doing, right? What would have to happen for you to say, you know what, I need to move on here?
I don't know anymore. I really don't. I don't know what would make me that upset to say I got to move on.
And you are offended that she won't be sexually active and intimate with you, right?
Yes.
Do you reckon that the fact that you're trading nude pictures and videos with women online and going through all of this stuff might be kind of a turn-off?
Might be. But at the same point, this is all more recent than the sex stopped.
Yeah. But that kind of started registering in there as soon as you came to Wyoming, right?
It did.
I mean, come on. Let's not get hung up on a timeline here. I mean, come on. Are you really here to say that this is her fault? That you're doing this because she withholds intimacy?
Well, no, not exactly, but it's part of the problem.
So if she was sexually active with you, you would cut this in half?
That's not
20%, 30%? What would you do?
I'd knock it off.
You wouldn't, though. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if we have sex 10 times a day.
This astounds me what people define as, okay, All right, we got to take a break. Brett admits that he's still lying to Mandy. He has something important that he needs to reveal when we come back.
You got something wrong here, Phil. You're focusing all on me. Put a hidden camera in my house and come in there.
Tomorrow on an all-new Dr. Phill. Is this the most selfish woman in the world?
You took your children's beds.
I took one bed.
Her daughters think so.
Did you show up at her wedding wearing a white dress?
I didn't know it was a problem. I was in pain. I decided I believe. I.
All you're talking about is me.
Selfish people.
I was a great mom.
She has
I
a mental
did not.
problem. She does.
That's tomorrow.
We have new details in tonight's breaking news. David Duchovny has entered a rehab center for sex addiction.
Brinkley said she tried to help Cook, even attempting to find a rehab center for sex addicts.
Jesse James, the latest high-profile hubby to reportedly enter sex rehab.
Tiger Woods reportedly underwent treatment for sexual addiction. The golfer has been linked with at least 14 women.
Well, those are just a few of the high-profile celebrities who made headlines for cheating on their spouses and claiming that it was because of a sexual addiction. Now, I'm here with Mandy and Brett. You say sometimes you think you have a sexual addiction, sometimes you think you don't. Mm-hmm. When you think you don't, what's your explanation for your behavior?
Usually her.
Okay, so sometimes you think it's an addiction and you just can't help it, but then on the days you think, well, I'm not really addicted, I'm just doing this because she made me do it by withholding herself from me. So what's a guy going to do, right?
Yes.
I'm just going to get online and send some naked videos.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
No, I mean, seriously, I'm not making light of it. That's your logic. I'm trying to get to your logic here.
That's my logic.
Does that work, by the way?
Yeah.
Sending naked videos? I mean, what do women do when you do that?
Want to meet?
Really?
Yep. That's generally where I stop it.
Because I have to say, if I was trying to connect with a woman, I think sending her a naked video would probably be the last thing I would do. I mean, seriously, I mean, who? I mean, like, I think I'd want to keep that reality under wraps as long as I could. So they send them back, and then what happens?
I'll talk, chat, email back and forth, and then they want to meet, and then I stop talking to them.
You just stop talking to them. Well, okay, Brett claims he has a confession that he needs to tell his fiancée. Let's take a look.
I'm on Adult Friend Finder at least once every day to every 2 days. The most recent girl my fiancée Mandy doesn't know about yet. We've been texting for about 3 weeks, 4 weeks now. And we've traded pictures. They are graphic pictures. It's starting to get to the point where this girl wants to meet. I get my fill from being desired and wanted by another girl because I don't get that at home. I don't know that I even care if she got mad or found out.
What are you thinking right now?
It makes me truly sick to my stomach that you can sit and watch me and your kids and act like you're a good dad, act like you're a good, husband, family man, and you're just nasty, you're just disgusting. You're a liar, you're a cheater. I don't think you would know the truth if it kicked you in the teeth, Brett. It's not just me, it's the kids. They're going to find out what kind of person you are eventually. And they're going to look at you and be as repulsed as I am one day.
So I keep asking you, is there a point at which you say enough is enough?
I want to say enough is enough. I really do.
Because what he wants you to do is to start having sex with him on a regular basis.
Yeah, what he wants me to do is, he just, wants me to be naked all the time. Yeah, that's what he wants.
And you suggested that maybe she get involved with somebody else.
It's not just sex. It's a general happiness level. The minute she got pregnant, she changed.
You were into this nasty life before I ever stepped into the picture. You would be doing this to anybody.
I had previous relationships where I stopped, so I know I can if I'm happy at home.
So if she would just be a better wife, you wouldn't do this?
Pretty much,
Okay,
yeah.
and you, pardon me?
So pretty much that's his
Okay, but
theory.
your theory is that she's negative, cold, bitter, frigid. You have a whole list of
I am
descriptors
negative,
here.
cold, bitter, and frigid because you have done nothing but lie and cheat on me since the day I moved across country to be with you.
Okay, then why did you? I mean, look.
Because I honestly, I just didn't know that that's the kind of person he was. And the first time I found the stuff, I just let it go. I didn't think it was anything to worry about.
I just have to kind of take the Dr. Phill hat off for a minute and just kind of be commonsensical. Okay, no, listen to me here. Sometimes common sense just isn't common enough. So let's just get common sense here. You're a very attractive young woman, right? Well, you all agree she's a very attractive young woman? Seriously. You're obviously intelligent. You're very articulate. So you pick up and move to Wyoming to be with him, and you get there and you find out, whoa, this guy's got a history here. He kind of gets involved in some quirky stuff. Now, along the way, his strategies have been, maybe you should have an affair. Maybe that would get the juices flowing.
Yep.
You've suggested that maybe she participated in some threesomes. You would like that, right?
At first, yeah.
Okay, so these are his strategies, his relationship strategies. Was there ever a point at which you said, you know what? I need to get my stuff and get the hell out of Wyoming. I need to go back wherever I was. You know, in life, you just kiss some frogs along the way. And so you went into this thinking it was one thing and you found it was something else. And you've not been highly motivated to change this. I mean, you basically say...
You got something wrong here, Phil, though. You're focusing all on me. And you're sitting here saying, she's articulate, she's this, she's that. Put a hidden camera in my house and come in there.
We all have flaws, and I don't dispute those.
I'm not focusing all on you. In fact, I wasn't even talking to you. I've been spending all the time talking to her. Here's what you said. You said, and I quote, I think I can stop, but I don't have a reason to stop, really. So why should I? Mm-hmm. Okay? So you're saying because of who she has become, there's nothing here to save. So you might as well do what feels good to you, right? Mm-hmm. That's your point. Mm-hmm. Okay? Now, if what you're saying to me is that I'm being one-sided and unfair here because I think it's dysfunctional for you to be in a committed relationship with a woman and children and to be sending naked videos of yourself to strange women on the internet, and if you think I'm being biased that that's not okay, then guilty as charged, because that's not healthy. It's not okay.
No, I wasn't talking about that. I was talking
that's
about
not
her.
okay. So you don't like the fact that I am saying to her that she actually isn't worthless, does have some self-worth, does have some self-esteem. That's offensive to your sensibilities for me to say that to her?
No.
What part of that was offensive to you?
The fact where you were sitting there saying this and that and giving her all these compliments. Well, you don't live in our house. You don't see what she yells at our kids. You don't see the attitude that's dropped on a daily basis. You don't live in my hell.
No, I don't.
You got to give credit where credit is due, and some throws over there too.
Do you think?
And I keep telling her, when she fixes that, I'll fix me.
You had this problem before I came along. This was there before I came along.
So was your problem because of your ex.
Do you think
you say on a daily basis?
Do you think you have an arrogant attitude about this?
Very much.
Now I do.
Listen, we got to take a break. Hold on. We're going to take a break, and then I'm going to talk about what I think needs to happen here. We'll be right back.
I am a frigid bitch, but what you don't get is I have to deal with you being a disgusting liar.
And later, if you knew that he was telling you the truth, would that help you?
Yeah.
He can sit with a qualified polygraph operator, or are you willing to prove you're telling the truth? Well, I'm back with Mandy and Brett. Now, she is his fiancée. They're not married, although they have a child together, and there's another child in the home as well. Your position, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that she's conning me. That she's here all fluffed up and cute and being real conversant and all of this kind of stuff. And I don't get the fact that she's a whole other deal behind closed doors at home.
Oh, I can promise you that.
It's not I'm conning, Dr. Phil. I am a frigid bitch at home. But what you don't get is I have to deal with you being a disgusting liar on a daily basis. You lie about this, you lie about money, you lie about everything. Nothing that comes out of your mouth is the truth, and nothing from day one has been the truth. Nothing.
So why would somebody choose this particular way to be? Now, Dr. Gary Stolman is here, and he specializes in sex addiction. Dr. Stolman, thank you for being here, by the way. And
thank you.
Based on what we've been talking about here, does this modify? I know you've been through lots of history here. We've provided you with all kinds of background because you've been very forthcoming, as have you. Based on this conversation, what do you see? What do you want to say?
What often happens is when somebody is a sex addict, as I believe Brett is, the way that they deal with their emotions, because they don't know how to deal with it or they don't deal with it directly, is by turning to the one drug of choice that they have, which is sex. Looking outside the marriage for sex is no way to solve the relationship problem that you have with Mandy. I believe that you have a sense of entitlement, that you have a right to do this, and sometimes a sex addict will find somebody who does not provide them sex or who provokes their partner to not give them sex so that they could then have an excuse to go out and act out sexually, as they had done before they met their partner. Bottom line is the two of you need to get together, I believe. They need to talk about these issues in a therapeutic environment, and the sex addiction issue needs to be dealt with.
Let me tell you what a lot of women think. A lot of women think, this is just real handy. It's kind of like the devil made me do it. It's like, I'm an addict. I can't help myself. Right. And it seems like this always comes up when they get caught. I didn't see Tiger presenting for treatment before he got caught.
Right.
But then when he got caught, it's like, oh, well, I'm an addict. I mean, how do you sort out this being an awfully handy excuse with being what's really, in fact, going on?
Well, when a person is actually a sex addict, they engage in those behaviors in spite of the fact that it's harmful both to themselves and the people that they love. They often claim that they have control over it, and in fact, they're out of control. They may stop for a month or so, and as Mandy said, you know, even if I walked around naked, he'd still be doing this, and not that she's going to be able to do that. So bottom line is the sex addict will engage in these behaviors in a very harmful way in their lives.
Could you stop this if you wanted to? You said you don't have a reason.
With help.
You don't think you could just stop it on your own?
No, probably not. But if I had a support system, I know I can quit anything.
Mm-hmm. So you think you could overcome it, but that doesn't mean you don't think that you have an addiction here. And I'm not sure addiction is the right word. It's certainly obsessive behavior.
I would agree with that.
And you understand that you're setting this up as a, well, if she would do better, I would do better. And it's that kind of standoff just doesn't ever work.
No.
Because while you're doing this, she's not going to say, well, I tell you what, I'm just going to seduce him. And we're going to just overcome this. That's just not ever, ever going to happen.
Never, ever.
I mean, there's under no theory under which she's going to decide that she's going to sex you out of this. I'm just being honest with you. That's not ever going to happen. So that means if this is going to change, you're going to have to take the initiative to do that, right?
Which is why I wrote the show.
Okay, and so if he did stop this completely and fully, if he was honest with you and forthcoming and said, you know what, I'm going to have an exclusive relationship with you and that's it, you would like for that to happen?
I would, yeah.
Are you being honest with her now? If you knew that he was telling you the truth, would that help you?
Yeah.
He can sit with
a
a qualified polygraph operator, or are you willing to prove you're telling the truth? Are you being honest with her now?
Yes.
So you haven't had sex with any of these women since you've been with her? So in 4 years, other than the 2 times, once you said you had oral sex in the back seat of a car,
truck,
and another time you just kissed a girl.
Yeah.
But in 4 years, that's it.
Yep.
In 4 years, with all of this sexual stuff swirling around you, you've never actually had sex with somebody else other than the interactions you're talking about.
Nope.
Do you believe that?
No, I don't. I do not believe a word he says. Like it took him 4 years to be honest about oral sex.
Would it matter if you knew that he was telling you the truth? Would that help you?
If I knew he was telling me the truth, it would put my mind to ease a little bit, yeah.
Are you willing to prove you're telling the truth?
Oh, yeah. Bring it on.
And because I don't want to mess with this if it doesn't matter to you. If it doesn't matter to you, I don't want to mess with it. If it does matter to you, then I'll give him a chance to prove it. I mean, he can.
It does matter.
He can sit with a qualified polygraph operator. They can ask him those relevant questions and determine whether he's telling the truth. And maybe, if he is, maybe you could go, okay, let's try to find a starting place here.
It's going to put me to ease a lot to find out if he's truthful or not.
And the man that will give you this polygraph is Jack Tremarco. He's former head of the FBI polygraph office. I mean, this guy's he's serious as death.
That's fun.
I mean, he does. He drills down and figures out where things are here. So you're willing to do that?
Yep. Jack,
shall we adjourn and give you the opportunity to do this? Then we're going to reconvene and find out where we're at, okay? All right. We're going to take a break and do that. We'll be right back.
The reason I'm taking this is to prove to Mandy that I'm being honest. What I'm trying to prove is that I haven't cheated on Mandy other than what we've discussed and what we've already went through. The test will prove that I'm not cheating on her.
If Brett fails the polygraph, I'm gonna be devastated. If he fails the polygraph, I'm ready to leave him.
Well, that was Mandy and her fiancé, Brett. Now, before we took a break, Brett agreed to take a polygraph test to prove once and for all that he hasn't had a sexual relationship with any other woman since his engagement to Mandy 4 years ago. She just doesn't believe him. And now, you acknowledge that there were 2 encounters that you had.
Yes.
So we've excluded those, right? Mm-hmm. And if he has been lying, if he has had other involvements, where are you?
I'm done. I'm ready to just throw in the towel and walk away.
Now, for the last few hours, Brett has been taking a polygraph backstage with expert Jack Tremarco. Jack is a highly respected polygraph examiner who served as the manager for the FBI polygraph unit. Is he a fair-minded straight shooter?
Yeah. Good guy.
Was it a fair test?
Yeah.
Was there anything that would affect it, good, bad, or indifferent, or was it, you have confidence in it?
I have confidence in it.
Jack, deck's clear. When I open this, you're confident in the protocol?
It is what it is.
Okay, but I mean, you feel confident that the test went acceptably within the protocol limits?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, the polygraph questions, number one, within the last 4 years, have you had sexual intercourse with anyone other than Mandy? And your answer was no. And the result is that was deceptive. That was not true. Second question, since your engagement 4 years ago, have you had sexual intercourse with anyone other than Mandy? You said no, and that answer was deceptive. So according to this test, you're not being truthful.
No.
In response to this.
I'm being truthful.
Well, of course
So the
you
test
are.
is wrong.
Yeah.
The test is wrong.
That would be why they're not held up in court.
Yeah. Now, Jack, you followed a very specific protocol here, correct?
I did. And just to answer that, polygraph is admissible in federal court.
What is it that you think would have distorted this?
Nervousness, the fact that my knee hurts from our flight yesterday.
Oh, my God, Brett. Seriously?
Well, listen, I haven't followed you around for all these years, 4 years, so I certainly don't know. I'm not saying one way or the other. But I asked you ahead of time, was there anything that affected the test? And you didn't mention your knee, and you didn't mention nervousness. So you felt like it was a good and fair test. But, look.
Yeah, I still feel that way, but it's just wrong. I don't care what anybody thinks.
What's your position on this?
I can't take any more lies. I really can't.
We're going to take a quick break, and I have a question for Brett that goes way beyond this polygraph and those questions. We'll be right back. The question I've got for you is this. I think that in everybody's life, everybody's situation, everybody's circumstance, there comes a point in time when all things wrong can be made right. This is one of those moments in time. If you're ever going to have a chance of healing this relationship, if you're ever going to have a chance of healing your patterns, it starts with the truth. It starts with candor. The truth is that in the last 4 years, you have had involvements. True?
Nope.
That's your story and you're sticking to it.
Yep. If she wants to leave, I can look at my kids and say that I came here, I said the truth. I told her the texting that I've been doing recently. I've been forthcoming. I've done what I can. I've offered to go to counseling. If she still wants to leave, then that's her choice.
And you get that this is really hard to believe because why wouldn't you? Yeah. If you've done everything else, why wouldn't you have had sexual intercourse with somebody? I mean, it's inconsistent with the highly sexualized behavior that you're doing elsewise. Why you would come up to that threshold and just stop? I mean, it defies common sense, right?
Mm-hmm. A lot of things.
I mean, you acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Understand that it does defy logic. Dr. Stolman, you're a specialist in sexual addiction. How important is it, either now or at some point, that Brett be completely honest with himself and perhaps a therapist, perhaps his fiance? I mean, at some point, don't you just have to get real about this?
100%. We could lie to others, and oftentimes we lie to ourselves. And unless we are really honest with ourselves about what's going on within ourselves, there's no chance for healing. And oftentimes, if there are things that may be acted out in a sexual way, it takes something like a polygraph, though you may disagree with the results. It takes something like losing a spouse though you may say it's her fault. But it takes a crisis before you begin to acknowledge what's really going on in a relationship and acknowledge the truth of that and begin to heal it. So this can be a beginning, or it could be an end.
Where are you at this point? I mean, I'm trying to help. I'm trying to get it on the table. And, maybe he's telling the truth. Maybe Jack Tremarco, after thousands and thousands of polygraph tests following a scientific protocol, is wrong this time. Maybe these tests are imperfect. Maybe logic should be suspended, and that you think a highly sexualized lifestyle and pattern would stop short because he said what he really desires. What he really wants is to be desired, not the actual act. I mean, maybe that's... Yeah, but where are you, and what do you want to do here? Do you want to go home with him?
I don't believe it at all. I don't want to go home and back to the same old lies and the same old, oh, she's never going to know. She's always going to stay, so I'll just keep doing what I want to do. I don't want that for me. I don't want that for my kids. Me and my children deserve a real man who is going to take care of us and love us unconditionally, whether they get sex 10 times a day, twice a year. Me and my kids deserve to be treated right. You have no right to stomp on somebody and treat them like they are a piece of garbage like you've done to me for 4 years.
Tell me what you want to see happen at this point.
Well, I guess the ball's kind of in her court. What I would like is to get some help. And so that way we can actually look at our kids and say we gave it everything.
I did try my hardest. I've read every book known to man about how to fix you and fix us. I've watched every Dr. Phill episode I possibly could to try to fix us. I've done everything I could. But I'm not going to be happy and smile and laugh and giggle and kiss you and hug you and love you all the time when you will not stop cheating and lying. It's never going to happen. Never. If you don't stop and if you don't get real and take responsibility and quit lying, nothing is ever going to change. Ever.
Well, this is that point. If you're lying, you need to say it, you need to own it, and the minute you do, then you're taking the first step to getting better in your relationship and in your life. But I don't want you to say something that isn't true. I don't want you to tell me what I want to hear. But if you're lying, you need to admit it.
You've come this far. You've drugged me halfway across the country to, talk on national television about our problems. Why would you stop here? Why would you not just be honest?
Because I'm not lying.
Okay.
So full of it,
all right. Well, and you may be right. Listen, I'm not judging it because I mean, logic tells me that you are. Logic tells me that you are. I will tell you this: whether you ever have a future with her or not, you have written to me, you have asked for help, and I feel like I have given you every opportunity today. Tried to give you a wake-up call here. I've tried to get you to own this situation, and I think you're not doing it. I think you have an arrogant attitude. I think you're very smug about all of this. Even if you're telling the truth, a sincere attitude would be very different. And I'm disappointed to see that. But I've done everything I can to help you. I got nothing else to offer you here. I will offer you, in concert with Dr. Stolman, in helping us to identify the specific resource that has the expertise to address this situation for you. I will make that resource available to you. I hope and pray that you will avail yourself of it. Because one of the things we know about addiction is that people continue to do it even in the face of the reality that it's damaging their life. And this clearly is damaging your life, right? I mean, it's just, will you take the help?
Yes.
If I make those arrangements? Because I will. I'll have our people start that immediately. For you have a serious decision to make here, and I think you should weigh it very carefully, but I don't think you have trust for him. I think the last 4 years predict the next 4 years. There's a point at which you got to say enough is enough. Yep. And I'm going to make resources available to you to help you navigate that terrain as well, because your self-esteem has been damaged, you've been damaged, and I think you need to really, really visit what your future holds here.
I agree.
We'll be right back. Well, I know I'm going to hear from y'all at home, and I do. Go to the message boards. I do want to hear from you. Special thanks to Jack Tremarco. Dr. Gary Stollman, thank you for weighing in on this. You truly believe there is an addiction problem here, right?
Absolutely, yes.
You do.
Yes.
And, but these situations can get better, true?
Providing, as you mentioned earlier, a person faces the truth and starts at that point. Yes.
Yeah, you got to be honest with yourself and others, and then you can change it if you acknowledge it, and then because there are treatments for this.
Yeah, and if you don't acknowledge it, nothing's going to change.
Yeah, exactly. For more information on today's show, you can go to drphil.com. You can reach me on my blog or Twitter. I'm going to have a link to Dr. Stollman as well. He specializes in this and is the best of the best. This isn't all he does, but he specializes in this, and I'm a big fan of yours and what you do. So I'm going to have a link on the website to Dr. Stollman as well. Thanks for being here. So long. Bye-bye, y'all.
Still 20 seconds. Only one choice now. Here we go. All right, come around one. Stand by, Dr. Phill. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Today on an all-new Dr. Phill. Life after lockdown.
My 13-year-old is out of control.
It was just the blind leading the blind.
The only thing that's gonna help me is going to school.
This got to the point where you were ready to leave.
Financially, it's hard. Parenting our daughter is hard. Everything is hard.
How do you two get along? That alone can make a huge difference. Let's do it.
Have a good show, everybody. Here we go.
This is a safe place to talk about hard things.
Stand by. We'll count you down.
Today is going to be a changing day in your life.
5, 4.
Get ready. Take care of you. Well, you know, it has been 2.5 years since our country locked down during COVID-19 pandemic. Can you believe it? 2.5 years. Now, masks are off, shelter-in-place mandates have been lifted, and children have returned to school. But life is far from back to normal. Too many families have been damaged or even destroyed by loss of loved ones, financial stress, and being forced to live in close quarters with their loved ones 24/7, all while adapting to the many challenges of remote work and failed distance learning. We are finally emerging from the darkness, but I'm here to tell you that the handling of the pandemic has had long-term catastrophic effects on many families and individuals. Effects that we are just beginning to unpack. Take a look.
There has been a secondary and tragic pandemic running during the COVID pandemic.
It's the dramatic increase in domestic violence as victims have been shut in with their abusers.
New data is highlighting the alarming rise in drug overdose deaths in the U.S. Deaths has climbed since the COVID-19 pandemic started.
New data from the CDC finds that 1 in 5 children live with a significant mental health concern.
Children's Hospital of Colorado declared a state of emergency and youth mental health for the first time ever. Pediatric emergency departments were overrun with kids attempting suicide. Since 2019, the number of kids in need of emergency mental care has doubled.
Schools are back in session, but some students are still dealing with the consequences of the pandemic and what's being called a COVID achievement gap.
Did you feel like you were behind the other students?
My grades were really bad.
Since COVID, my 13-year-old is out of control.
You don't understand.
How can we help you, Ava?
The only thing that's gonna help me is going to school.
Well, what that young girl is expressing really illustrates my exact point. That was Deidre talking to her 13-year-old daughter who could not handle online schooling. Now, here to talk to me about this is Dr. Pearson. She is a legal and organizational analyst who's been covering the pandemic unfolding. And that's a lot to cover. Dr. Pearson, what we just saw in those last 10 seconds of that tape is the perfect example of the anger and frustration that children and teens were feeling and what parents were dealing with during this lockdown much of the time. Would you agree, the frustration?
It was a frustration about a lack of control over their circumstances and their ability to decide what they wanted to do because it was safer at home, so they say.
Yeah, so they say. A lot of things were frustrating to me going into this, and that was, it seemed like the information that was being given out seemed to be changing daily, contradictory oftentimes, and not really based on scientific evidence. Why is that?
Well, there's a really straightforward answer to this, and that is there was no plan followed. They were responding in the moment.
Oh, look, we're the most sophisticated country in the world, supposedly. We're supposed to anticipate and have readiness for all eventualities, right? And you're telling me that they shut down the #1 economy in the world, they shut down the schools, they wiped out thousands and thousands of mom and pop businesses that had been worked on for 40, 50 years, and pulled kids out of schools and created gaps that will never be closed. And it was a knee jerk.
So there are 3 factors here. There's motivation, there's knowledge, and there's infrastructure. There was a plan that existed. And in fact, just prior to the inauguration of the new president, there had been exercises where they went through this exact scenario. And that's the thing that is so infuriating. It was this exact scenario. And when it counted, 23 of the people who attended that training, if you will, were no longer in the administration.
So you're saying the Obama administration had a plan, the Trump administration put it in a drawer and adios to people that knew what was going on, and we were left with a huge information gap.
There was an information gap, motivation gap, and an infrastructure gap.
Did y'all feel like we were making this up as we went along at the time? Did it feel like you were getting a different message all the time? Wear a mask, don't wear a mask, do this, don't do that? If you're frustrated about it now, raise your hand about what took place. Okay. If you think, no, they did the best they could because this was something new, raise your hand. Yeah, I did not feel that way. And I said so early on. I said that the way they're doing this and shutting this down is going to create more problems than the virus itself. And I think those problems are just starting to unfold, and I think we're going to be paying a very high price for decades to come.
I agree with you.
Deidre, we just saw a tiny bit of what you've been dealing with at home over the past 2.5 years. Let's take a look.
I don't know how to put it into words, and you won't stop rubbing everything in my face!
My 13-year-old, she's vindictive, manipulative. She is a liar, a thief, just downright nasty. Whew. Boy, those words are hard to say about your own child.
Ava, this is heartbreaking.
You wouldn't understand!
We do understand. I don't understand that you lied. I don't.
You don't understand anything!
I surely was not prepared for distance learning.
There is no point to me of online school.
There is a point.
No, there isn't. There is no reward.
Her behaviors has affected everyone.
Stay out of my life.
She says openly how much she hates my son. Her actions really make me miserable. She has pushed me to the point of thinking about taking my son and just leaving.
Well, Deidre, you live just a half a mile away from a neighboring school district where schools were open and kids were doing just fine. They were actually going to class, right?
Yes, sir.
But she felt really isolated.
Very much so. She did.
And remote learning did not work for her?
Oh, it definitely did not work for her. 6th grade is the beginning of middle school.
Right.
So, you know, obviously with distance learning, we're on the computer and most kids had their cameras off, so she just was so disconnected.
Your husband, Jerry, is joining us virtually, and thank you for joining us as well. Jerry, you watched this unfolding, and when a child gets frustrated and can't master what's put in front of them and is not getting rewards from it, not having success experiences, it just got worse, and it got worse for her.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And the hardest thing as a parent is to watch your child struggle and not have the tools or anything to calm them down or to take that pain away that's so obvious. It's a struggle.
Let me tell you, you guys didn't invent this problem. This was happening in homes across the country over and over and over again. It was a nightmare. I mean, it didn't work. Now, Simone, the pandemic struck just as you were entering your final 2 years of high school, correct?
Yes.
What was the impact? What was the feeling of that?
So for me, I'm a student athlete, so I've played basketball my entire life, and I really leaned on that to support me through college because I knew my parents weren't going to be financially able to do that. So I knew that basketball was going to be my key to getting in. But with the pandemic, I was shut down completely from that. So I knew I had to focus on academics and to get me to college. But my teachers were just really focused on trying to understand Zoom and online learning. So they didn't really have enough time to prepare us and teach us everything that we needed to know, especially going into college. So with that, my senior year, I was very, very ill prepared. I did not know that I had to make 2 different applications for my college and for the dorms. So I only applied just for the school. And now I am in college, have no dorms, and I go to school in LA and I live in the Bay Area. So it's very, very hard for me.
Yeah. Did this have to happen?
The way that we could have avoided this is if at the local level where education happens, if we could have had a plan. We have plans for active shooters, but we don't have plans for what to do when we can't go to school for a long period of time.
They shut the schools down for 2 years. Mm-hmm. And when they shut them down, did they have a plan to open them back up?
No.
Because it seems to me that they should have had a plan to reopen the schools the day they shut them down. Coming up, I have someone who knows exactly about these problems that families are facing. We're going to add him to the conversation when we come back.
Parents aren't equipped to deal with that. The parents are fearful and depressed. So it was just the blind leading the blind.
And Deidre, this got to the point where you were ready to leave, right? And later, what are you proud of about your family?
I'm proud that we're still together.
So you're hanging in.
By a thread.
Okay. Well, we need to put the fun back in dysfunctional. 70 million children will be forever affected by what they've gone through with the pandemic, how things were handled when our country was locked down, the pandemic that they've endured. All of us will be. Now, Deidre and Jerry's 13-year-old daughter and Simone, Carrie's daughter, are just two of them. The good news is that help is here, and he has what I believe is the real beginnings of a roadmap to help families navigate out of the chaos and back into a healthy dynamic. My good friend and world-renowned psychiatrist, Dr. Charles Sophie, joins me today. His new book, Family Values, Reset Trust, Boundaries, and Connection with Your Child, does a deep dive into the issues so many parents face with their children, both pre- and post-pandemic, and gives tools to address the areas that need the most attention and gives guidance down a path that reconnects families to their values. Dr. Sophie, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
How much did this affect kids at all ages when they got isolated?
Significantly, just the very fact of the feeling of fear. Kids are scared, or we were all scared. There's a bug out there we could get. You can't breathe. You got to put this thing on your mouth. So anybody with anxiety issues, they got amplified. OCD started to, be emerging that may not have even emerged to that level of symptoms. So there's a huge amount of that. And the more anxiety people had, the more it spills into a mood disorder, and they're depressed. They have no treatment. They have nobody to help them, and they're stuck in their homes. And parents aren't equipped to deal with that. The parents are fearful and depressed. So it was just the blind leading the blind.
Mm-hmm. And Deidre, this got to the point where you were ready to leave, right? It just...
Absolutely.
You had all you could take.
Yes. It has definitely been really tough.
When you have a child that's been diagnosed with something even before all this, and then you don't have a teacher who's able to eyeball them during the day like they would in a school to be able to say their ADHD is out of control or they're not paying attention, it's up to you. While you're trying to work and cook and shop and parent and it's crazy.
Yeah, definitely. It's tough.
And nobody wanted this to happen, but you live with the aftermath about this. I mean, what's been your experience with this? What's the hardest thing that you guys are having to face in digging out of the pandemic?
Just on the laptop, I feel like I was teaching myself pretty much. Like, I had to go to get tutoring for help, and I already have anxiety, so with the COVID and just going out, I was a little scared. I missed interaction with college students, within how to stay inside, some anxiety worse. I mean, I'm better now, but I still miss social interactions with college students.
Right. Yeah. And things you took for granted before are harder now, right?
Yeah.
Things you used to do just naturally, it's kind of hard to get back into that at this point. A lot of us have found that, right? The thing that I love about your book, Family Values, is that you say this has to happen one family at a time, and there's got to be a plan.
Yes, because if you're going to rely on help in your community, charity begins at home. I talk about parenting beginning with you. If you're not a solid parent, you can't help your kid. You got to take over your house. You got to fix yourself, and nobody knows how to do it. So there's a simple book. It's not that hard. And then you at least get yourself grounded and you have a foundation and a structure to then build within and then maybe get outside help.
Yeah, relationships headed downhill fast for some people during the pandemic when faced with financial strain, anxiety, disagreements on how to parent children during the pandemic, how to get education underway, how to keep it going. We're going to talk about all of that after the break and how to find pride in your own family. We're going to talk about all of that when we come back.
Pick something and it's hard. Financially, it's hard. Parenting our daughter is hard. Everything's hard.
How do you two get along?
We took on a lot of financial hardship, and now more than ever, we struggle to parent our daughter.
We're polar opposites in parenting.
Carson is a dictator in his parenting.
I always feel like I'm the bad guy.
Our daughter is being done a disservice by constantly being around somebody who is so grumpy, walking around with anger and irritation radiating off of him, and only feeling happy when he's playing video games. I would love to find a way to fix our relationship, and if not, how we move forward.
Oh boy, have you come to the right place. On the right day, at the right time. What's been the hardest thing?
I mean, pick something and it's hard. Financially, it's hard. Parenting our daughter is hard. Making sure that she is on the same path that other kids would be on if the pandemic wouldn't have happened. Like, she's 6 and she can't barely write. She can spot read, but you know, you feel so much pressure to have them be the best that they can be. And I mean, everything's hard.
Mm-hmm. Carson, do you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah. How do you two get along?
Not so well anymore.
It hasn't been good for a while, but the pandemic has made it very clear that, I mean, that we need to work harder, that we need to be better for her.
Mm-hmm. What are you proud of about your family?
I'm proud that we're still together. We're still making it work, albeit dysfunctional at times. I'm proud that every time we fight and I ask him to leave, he says, no, I'm not going anywhere. We're in this together. We're here. I'm here. I'm not leaving. I'm proud of those things, the trying and the wanting to be better.
Well, so you're hanging in.
By a thread.
Okay. Well, we need to put the fun back in dysfunctional. Right. You're hanging in there. That's good, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you talk about having pride in the family and really focusing on the family unit as being something special. Talk about that, because that's important.
It's not just special. It's a very unique thing. And if you don't value that and respect it and respect each other, even when you're arguing, you still respect each other. He's able to say, I'm not going anywhere, even though you're acting crazy. You know, you just don't lose your mind because you come within a boundary of respect of each other. Yeah. There's got to be a limit because you value your family. And what you value and how you build that is what's going to give Lorelai the view of the world. She'll go out and value the same things. But if you're beating the heck out of each other, she's not going to value it. So you have to have parameters, and that's built around a value system.
I remember one time hearing our oldest son telling a friend of his, we don't do that. And they said, why not? And he said, well, the McGraws just don't do that. And I remember at that point thinking, that's really a good thing. There's a standard that he just attributed it just because that's who we are, and we don't do that. How many of you grew up with that kind of code in your family? You can't wait for the government to fix it. You can't wait for the school to fix it. You've got to say, we're going to fix our family, and it begins with, I'm going to treat myself and each other with dignity and respect. I remember one time hearing our oldest son telling a friend of his, we don't do that. And they said, why not? And he said, well, the McGraws just don't do that. And I remember at that point thinking, that's really a good thing. There's a standard that he just attributed it just because that's who we are, and we don't do that. How many of you grew up with that kind of code in your family? Okay, some of you did, some of you didn't. That, to me, that's what family values. Yes. There's a really good foreword to this book. I wrote it. Oh, right. But in the beginning of the foreword, it says he called this family values because he values family. Right. And that's so important because you've got to be able to say, we take pride in our family. And we treat ourselves and we treat each other with dignity and respect,
Absolutely, no matter what.
And it starts there. You can't wait for the government to fix it. You can't wait for the school to fix it. You've got to say, we're going to fix our family, and it begins with, I'm going to treat myself and each other with dignity and respect. And you have a roadmap called SWEEP.
Right.
And tell us how that works.
It's just simple. It's 5 key areas of your life that you look at as an individual and as your family, and you get on a roadmap to the end goal of where you want to do to fix these issues that come up when you do that SWEEP assessment.
All right, and what are the S?
Sleep.
W?
Work, eating, emotional expression, and play.
Okay, and those seem real simple, but there's a lot more to each one of them. And the important thing is, and let me tell you something else too, this is a big thing. Just attending to something and having a plan, that alone can make a huge difference.
Right.
Just the fact that you say, you know what, I'm going to go home today and I'm going to pay attention to my family and we're going to have a plan. Nothing else other than just the commitment to pay attention to it will make it better. And then if you have a plan with real steps, really get better.
Yeah.
Now, Vanya says she and Carson aren't sleeping in the same room right now. So how important is sleep for Dr. Sophie's SWEEP method? More on that when we come back. She's got to feel overwhelmed. It's like everybody's sailing on and she's getting further and further behind. And at one point they just say, oh, what's the point? I'll never catch up. I'll just go smoke dope or sit out and watch the tree grow. Well, I'm here with Dr. Charles Sophie, who has been working with families across the country before, during, and post-pandemic. And he has seen firsthand the hardships families and children are facing inside and now outside of their homes. Inside the homes when there was pressure on. And, you know, as Dr. Pearson said, look, it doesn't matter how much you pre-plan, you can't plan for everything. Some of this stuff is going to sneak up on you, and you have to go into reaction mode and do what you can. And everybody did a good job in America. I saw people that I know it was hard. They lost jobs. I know that it was difficult economically, and they're wondering what's going to happen. Are we going to be able to pay our rent? Are we going to be able to get by? And then they would lose a loved one and it just break their hearts. And, you know, we kept taping. I think we did 29 shows from home. Some of them we did on cell phones. We did national television shows on cell phones propped up on cookie jars because people just had needs, and we just kept doing it. And I was so inspired by the spirit of people. But fatigue sets in, and it got hard for people. And now depression has set in with a lot of people, and loneliness has set in with a lot of people. And days turn into weeks, weeks turn into months, and we're now 2.5 years into this. And you'd been working on this book for a while, and I really pressured you to accelerate this because you say it starts at home with the family, and you've come up with this stepwise plan. And talk about sleep. Why did you start with that?
Well, because if we don't have a certain amount of time every night on a regular basis consistently for your brain to slow down and recharge, you're not going to be who you should be the next day. And every day that you don't sleep, you're less you every day. You're more intolerant, you're more irritable, you're not productive, you don't feel good, and then you have all this other outside stuff happening, you're really going to plummet.
Yeah. And if somebody told me you have to make someone psychotic and you can control one thing,
right,
it would be sleep. That is so important.
Yeah, it's vital. Your brain needs to recharge.
Yeah.
And it needs to be quality sleep, not just sleep.
Right. Okay, talk about work.
Work. Well, for children, it's their 8 hours of schoolwork during the day. Is it the right setting? And now we know more than ever it's probably not the right setting for a lot of kids because it got worse. But is it the right setting? Are they learning, and are they getting out of those 8 hours what they should be? And for us, I mean, do we spend that time, 8 hours or whatever it is, in a quality, productive way? Do you feel a purpose? Whether you're staying home and you're a housewife or a house husband, whatever, or you're out doing something, you know, is it purposeful for you? Is it getting you on your path to your purpose?
Yeah, I think it's really important in talking to your children, and we've talked about this many times, is children tend to compare themselves. It's so important that you influence your child to compare themselves to themselves.
Right.
Like, how are they doing today versus how they were doing yesterday? Not how they're doing compared to the kid next to them or the kid down the street, because they don't know how that kid's doing. That kid puts on a social mask and comes to school and they go, oh, wow, they seem like they're doing great. Well, you don't really know how that kid's doing. You just know how that child appears to be doing. Right. You know, encourage your child to compare themselves to themselves. Right. You know, how was I doing yesterday in math or reading, or how am I doing yesterday in mood versus how I'm doing today?
Right.
That's the only person they control.
Absolutely.
And if they do that with their work, then they can learn that little advances add up to big results across time. And your daughter, I mean, she's got to feel overwhelmed. It's like everybody seems like they're sailing on and she's getting further and further behind. And at one point they just say, oh, what's the point? I'll never catch up.
Exactly.
So what the hell? I'll just go smoke dope or sit out and watch the tree grow.
Right.
But what she's got to do is set some personal goals and say, look, I'm going to do some things for me today. And let me tell you, it takes 1,000 attaboys, 1,000 attagirls to erase one you're not good enough. And you got to catch her doing some things right if you have to hide behind a bush to do it. Because sometime during the day, she's going to do something right, something sweet, something good. Even if it's brush her hair, you got to catch her doing something right and say, I'm really proud of you. And that's about putting this dignity back in there. And you know, you say you didn't get it filled out right and didn't get your dorm. Are you going to class?
Do you guys have a shared hobby?
Not anymore.
No.
Right. But you should.
I'm a really big fan of board games, so I'm trying to get Lorelai to do board games.
She's not. Look, I'm talking about a hobby for you two, to build your relationship.
I mean...
Yeah, I'm with you. Board games are like problems in a box.
Right.
Okay.
You say you didn't get it filled out right and didn't get your dorm. Are you going to class?
Yes, but I've missed class several days already, and we just started last week, so I'm just a bit behind.
Well, how many days have you made it?
Only the first 3 days.
That's 3 days more than you did it before.
Yeah.
I mean, really, find something about what you're doing to say that's 3. Now next week I'll do 4.
I mean, build on
the
your
next week I'll do 5. Really, you've got to get off your back and give yourself some encouragement here. You've really got to do that and find your way back.
I mean, don't you think it's wonderful that you're commuting like that?
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm flying from home and back.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a
which
lot.
is not a way to do it,
but you're doing it.
You've got to encourage yourself. You've got to come up with a plan here.
Yes.
And you talk about that you got to have structure and a schedule to this. And that's really, really important. So talk about eating a little bit.
Eating. I mean, obviously we eat every day. Do we eat good? Do we eat like the right foods? Are we eating with other people? Are we sitting there alone, isolated because of the depression or whatever that's happening? So it's eating properly, eating at the right time. Low blood sugar can really make a child or anybody act in a way that looks mental health, and it's really not. They just didn't eat enough, or they didn't eat the right calories. So really looking at when you're eating, what you're eating, who you're eating with, you know, it all matters.
Yeah, that makes a huge difference.
Like
now, talk about emotional expression, because this is so important.
I mean, emotional expression has very many variations. One, you know, for adults, it's intimacy. Is their marriage where it needs to be? If it's not, you've got to work on it, because that's the role model she's going to look for in a marriage. And, you know, are you dealing with your own emotions as an individual? And then teaching them how to deal with their emotions, whether that's a feelings chart for a child. Some kids don't even know how to describe anger. They just do it. They need to be able to look at a picture and say, this is how I feel, if they can't articulate it. They shouldn't just be acting it out. So it's getting somebody in touch with the knowledge and their emotions, their head connected to their heart.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's P?
P is play. We all play. Play by yourself and play with others. So hobbies. Many people don't have any hobbies. Hobbies are very self-soothing. Things that you do by yourself, whether it's reading, needlepoint, cooking, gardening. You need that soothing therapy time for yourself, and then things you do with others, socialization. Do you guys have a shared hobby?
Not anymore.
No.
Right, but you should.
I'm a really big fan of board games, so I'm trying to get Lorelai to do board games.
She's not, look. I'm talking about a hobby for you two, to build your relationship.
I mean,
Yeah, I'm with you. Board games are like problems in a box.
Right.
I ain't got time for that. Like, I worked all day. I would say the last hobby we really had was Game of Thrones.
Absolutely.
Like, we made that a weekly thing, you know, talked about the episode, talked about things, but
It's bonding.
yeah, it hasn't,
You need
there
to go
hasn't
back
been
to
any
that.
of
You
that.
bonded over the massive destruction of the human race. I get it. That's good. But whatever gets you together.
Right.
So look, what's the first step in helping our most vulnerable children and families that were affected by all of this? It's really something that begins in your home with your family. We'll be right back. This country is in trouble right now. We know that. We know how divided it is. I've done topics here where I felt like I had to have on body armor with people so divided. There's divisiveness in this country right now. But let me tell you something. You don't want to be divided at home. And that's the key. You think it starts with this family unit, and if that falls apart, the society falls apart.
Exactly.
When we talk about having dignity and respect within the family, how does that start? What's the first conversation that you recommend people have in here when they sit down? Somebody has to be the one
The head of
that initiates, right?
Right. And puts out there, are we on the same page? Do we want to value ourselves? Do we value ourselves? Why do we want to be a family? What does that mean to you? What does it mean to you and each member? So that you understand what it means to each member, so that the value that you're going to have as a whole is a piece of everybody. And so when you build that value model and that's the goal, then you build the plan to work toward it. And everybody has a stake in it.
And the more awkward this might seem in your own situation, the more you need to do it.
Right.
Because this should be natural. This should be instilled in every family. It's been a long, long time since I was in high school. A long time. I had hair. It's been so long. But I remember a friend of mine was over one night, and this was the toughest kid I've ever met in my life. I mean, he'd fight a buzzsaw. And everybody was afraid of this kid. And we were getting ready to go out, and we were going down the stairs, heading out the door, and my mother said, whoa, where are you going? I said, well, we're going to the basketball game. And she said, oh, no, you're not, because it was really icy out. And you didn't argue with my mother, so we just turned and went back upstairs. And we got back upstairs, and this tough kid was looking out the window, and he had tears running out of his eyes. And I thought, man, he must have really wanted to go to that basketball game. And I said, you know, what's wrong? And he just turned around and said, I just wish once in my life somebody would care enough about me to tell me I couldn't go somewhere.
Amen.
Because of the roads. And I thought, wow, I understand why this kid's so tough and so mean all the time. So when you see that anger, you got to look past it. Right. And I just want all of you to really think about, what's my family stand for? Because if, you know, there are millions of people listening to this right now. If we have families that say, you know what, I got to quit bitching, and I just got to say, what am I doing in my family?
Yes.
Am I valuing my own family? Am I taking pride in my family? And are we living with dignity and respect and treating each other with dignity and respect? it's going to make a huge difference. And if they follow this stepwise plan that you have, then we can start walking our way back here.
On our own.
This is not a gap that can't be closed, and we are resilient people.
Yes.
And we can do this.
Make it work.
It starts with you. It starts at home.
Yes,
so
100%.
But congratulations on this book. It really is good. I highly recommend it. I want to thank all of my guests today. A special thanks to Dr. Pearson. Thank you for weighing in with your perspective. I also want to thank you, Dr. Sophie, for sharing useful tools to help navigate through the mess and chaos that has been left for the past 2.5 years. His book, Family Values, Reset Trust, Boundaries, and Connection with Your Child, is now available for purchase anywhere books are sold. And I think everyone can benefit by having a copy of this in their home. And everyone in our studio audience today is going home with a copy. So all of you go home with a copy. For more information about today's episode, or if you would like to share your story, log on to drphill.com. If you want to add your voice to the conversation, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And if you're in the LA area, we'd love to have you join us up here on stage in our studio audience. Just go to drphill.com, click on Be Part of the Audience for all the details. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to my podcast, Fill in the Blanks, where I provide critical information on some of the most important issues that you guys are facing today. Robin does the same thing on her podcast, I've Got a Secret. She really talks to a lot of thought leaders about the secret to their success, the things that they've done to be innovative in this life and in this world. We will see you next time. Thanks for being here.
Dr. Phill.
Connor McCowan is charged with murder in the stabbing death of Andrew Singler.
Her brother killed her boyfriend.
I lost my two best friends.
Was it murder?
He could have called 911, but instead he left him lying there and ran away.
Or self-defense?
My son was attacked.
Why did he walk into the apartment with an open knife?
It wasn't open.
He said it was. Let's do it.
Have a good show, everybody. Here we go.
I hate to see people suffering, and you've heard long enough.
Stand by, Dr. Phill.
I'm going to get you the help that you need.
In 5, 4.
This is going to be a changing day in your life. Today, a Dr. Phill exclusive. A college student with dreams of becoming a dentist is brutally murdered. The killer? His beautiful girlfriend's 19-year-old brother. Now, headlines about the shocking murder had everyone talking. Michigan teen to face trial in stabbing death of sister's boyfriend. Text messages led to murder conviction of Connor McCowan. Connor McCowan, 19, sentenced to 20 to 60 years in prison for murder of Andrew Singler. That one fateful night 9 months ago ruined the lives of 2 young men. One sits locked behind bars for the next 20 to 60 years, while the other lies in a coffin. What sparked their deadly fight? Take a look.
Connor McCowan is charged with murder in the February 23rd stabbing death of Michigan State University senior Andrew Singler.
Court records say there had been an argument between Singler and McCowan's sister earlier in the evening that Connor McCowan, quote-unquote, took exception to. Police say McCowan stabbed Singler the morning of February 23rd. During a fight at the Castle Point apartment Singler shared with McCowan's sister and another roommate. He suffered multiple stab wounds, one to the arm and one to the heart.
Teenager's murder trial focused on text messages sent just minutes before the stabbing death of an MSU senior.
Texts read in court illustrate the violent and threatening texts Connor and Singler sent each other, ultimately leading up to their deadly fight.
Come on, let's do this. Talk behind my back. I'll destroy you any day. Then you wouldn't have a problem if I showed up at your apartment right now then, huh? Come on over, I'll embarrass you.
Tears fall from the face of Connor McCowan as he takes the stand today. Upon approaching the apartment, McCowan said he took the knife out of the center console of his car.
I didn't know what was going to happen. I was trying to be on the safe side. I was scared by it. I thought he was going to kill me. I've never seen him that bad.
McCowan said he used the knife to defend himself.
I grabbed my knife in my pocket, and I just had one like this. I needed him off me. I tried to get him off me.
Connor McCowan sat straight-faced as Judge Kennedy read the verdict in his murder trial.
Second-degree murder, guilty.
But behind McCowan, family and friends sobbed, hugged, and wiped away tears.
Well, Connor's parents, Randy and Judy McCowan, and his sister Shay, are desperate to prove the teenager they know and love isn't a cold-blooded killer. They say Connor did not intend to murder Shay's boyfriend, Andrew. He was attacked and acting in self-defense. Take a look.
The night that Andrew died, we were at the bar. He gave me a piggyback ride. He slipped and I fell off his back. He played it off like it wasn't a big deal. He was very drunk and he called me a he called me a whore, called me
Shay texted Connor that she and Andrew had been in a fight.
If Andrew and I got into a fight, he was a mediator.
Connor was getting all sorts of calls and texts and threatening messages from Andrew.
Andrew baited Connor 15 times in text messages to try to get him over there to that apartment, threatening to kill him and to stick him.
When Connor got to the apartment complex, he looked at his phone. One text said, "Hurry up so I can kill you." Connor was afraid to go up there without having any protection for himself.
The pocket knife was in his car. He thought, I better put this knife in my pocket. Connor was buzzed into the apartment. When Connor got there, the door opened.
And Andrew flew at him and started punching him in the head.
Connor said he couldn't get away from Andrew, so he took out his knife and cut him.
Andrew grabbed his stomach and then went down on the ground.
I got a call from Andrew's mom, and she said, Andrew's dead. We don't want you at the funeral, and we hope your brother rots in prison for the rest of his life.
Connor came home, woke me up, and told me what had happened.
It was just an awful nightmare for everybody. They arrested my son and read him his rights and took him to jail.
I lost my 2 best friends in the matter of seconds.
It's been 9 months now, and nothing will ever be the same again.
Now, Connor's mother, Judy, Father Randy, and Sister Shay are joining us today. And first off, look, I'm terribly sorry that this has happened. 20 to 60 years, you all think is ridiculously harsh, correct?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Why is this penalty so harsh in your opinion?
Well, I think obviously Connor was trying to defend himself that evening. It was clear. I don't know if it's 20 to 60 years, if it's just an eye for an eye, and let's throw away another life because they lost a son. I mean, I get it. It's horrific that they lost their son, but he was like a son to me, and I've lost 3 kids now, not just 1. So.
I feel awful what's happened to Andrew, but my son didn't do anything illegal that night. He was defending himself. He was attacked.
Why did you decide to get your brother involved in the fight?
Connor is my best friend, and the 3 of us, Connor, Andrew, and I, we were best friends, hung out every single day. And anytime Andrew and I would be in an argument and things would get out of hand, I'd give Connor a call, and he'd come over, and he wouldn't get in the middle of things, but his presence would mediate the situation. Mm-hmm. We'd go back to laughing and having fun. And that night I was so overwhelmed and I was in so much pain that I just texted him.
Did your brother take it the way I did, that your rib had been broken because Andrew had attacked you?
I'm not sure how he interpreted it, but my text message didn't wake him up. He read the text message after Andrew had called him once, and he asked me, "Are you okay?" And then I told him I was okay.
Do you feel like you started the dominoes falling here when you texted Connor?
I don't think so, because my text message didn't wake Connor up that night. If Andrew had never called him, Connor would have read the text message in the morning, and I could have explained then.
Dozens of messages were sent between Shay, Andrew, and Connor the night of Andrew's death, as well as like 100 calls from Andrew looking for Shay. Will they prove Connor was fighting for his life? We'll be right back.
I get messages weekly from people I don't know, blaming me that I should be in prison instead of my brother. I received a picture of Andrew saying that I'm the reason why he's dead. It's just so painful. People will never understand what I'm dealing with inside.
My friend, he just been stabbed. I'm driving to Phill Hospital right now. I just got home to my apartment, and there he was. I don't know what to do.
Do you want to stop and get an ambulance? How's he doing?
Andrew, you with me, dude? I don't think he's doing too well. He's not responsive.
All right, so we either need you to stop and get an ambulance coming to your location, or you need to get him to the hospital.
I can get him to the hospital right now.
Okay, so when you came home to your apartment, you found him in the apartment?
Yes, he was laying right there.
And is he unconscious right now?
No, he's just breathing really hard.
So where in his body is he stabbed?
I don't know if it's a lung puncture or not. I just picked him up and grabbed him and went.
Is he able to talk to you right now?
Andrew, can you say something to me? Anything, man? No, he's not saying anything now.
If he does, actually answer your questions, you need to ask him who did it.
Okay. We're almost there, dude. Hang tight, man.
What's your name?
It's Tyler. I'm his roommate.
Okay, is he breathing?
Well, it's almost like he's choking or something. I'm about to pull him to the emergency in the ER.
That was the 911 call made by Andrew's roommate. Now, during the trial, one of the most damning pieces of evidence was that after stabbing Andrew, Connor did not call 911. Instead, he ran. He drove all the way home, ditched the knife on the way, woke up his father, and told him what happened. Then instead of calling 911 from their home, Randy and Connor drove back to Andrew's house to check on him. Now, if someone had made that call sooner, would Andrew still be alive? Hindsight's 20/20, but the prosecution made a point of all of this, correct? If he said it was self-defense, once he had incapacitated him and was no longer threatened by him, he could have called for assistance, but instead he ran and threw away the knife. And
he was afraid, I mean, afterward, but he never thought that that wound was something that would kill, that Andrew would die from.
Well, let's take a look at some of the text that went back and forth between them. It was clearly inflammatory, but there was a very unusual undertone of civility between the two at the same time. Connor to Andrew, blank, I'll knock your teeth in, watch who the you're talking to, you told me where you are, and I'm already awake. I have no problem finding you just to blank whoop your ass. Then Andrew back to Connor, oh, you're so hard, Connor, I'm so scared. Then Connor to Shay, okay, well, I'm about to get in my car and find him and beat the out of him. He's saying all of this blank about you and cussing at me and blank like that. So did you get that text? Yes. So you knew he was going to find him.
I didn't think he would actually do it. I think he was just really worked up that we were waking him up with this.
Andrew to Connor, I'm home, you blank idiot. Andrew to Connor, good call though. Connor to Andrew, then you're just adding fuel to the fire then, and I'll say anything to your face, blank. What makes you think I'd be afraid of you, all 5'11" of you? Ha! Andrew to Connor, good one, Connor. You're barely taller than me, blank. Andrew to Connor, ouch, you really got me. Andrew to Connor, you're pathetic. Connor to Andrew, then you wouldn't have a problem if I showed up at your apartment right now then, huh? Andrew to Connor, come over, I'll blank embarrass you. So that's their exchange. I mean, it sounds like a couple of little kids.
It does, it was horrible.
And then this one, which I thought was interesting, Andrew to Connor, blank you. Connor to Andrew, 20 minutes. Andrew to Connor, blank you. Connor to Andrew, I got to get gas first. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. It's like, this doesn't sound like a homicidal maniac to me. When Connor's saying that, Andrew to Connor, great, hurry up. Andrew to Connor, so I can blank kill you. Then Connor to Andrew, will do. Andrew to Connor, not literally, but your ass needs to be beaten, and guess what, blank, I'm going to blank make sure it happens. So it's like, okay, I'm coming over, but I got to stop and get some gas. Okay, hurry up. And he says, I'm going to kill you. Well, wait a minute, I don't mean really kill you, but this is happening on two levels.
I personally think him saying I'm stopping for gas, and it was like saying, you still have time to apologize to me, you know? You still have time to make this right.
Why did he walk into the apartment with an open knife?
It wasn't open when he walked into
the
apartment.
He said it was.
He didn't go into the apartment.
Connor said as he got out of the car, he opened the knife.
And put it in his pocket.
Yeah. You understand how a prosecutor uses this and how a jury hears it. He goes from location A to location B. He shows up, opens a deadly weapon, puts it in his pocket, and then goes to the guy and then says it was self-defense. You understand?
I understand how it appears,
but
it is legal to do. You can legally put a pocket knife into your pocket in our state. You can open it in our state. So what he did, yes, it doesn't sound that great, But what he did was legal. He was afraid for, you know, he was hoping to God he didn't have to use it.
I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not saying it's illegal, but I'm telling you from having debriefed thousands of jurors that they're looking at state of mind.
Okay.
And he went in with a deadly weapon. All right, next, Shay and Andrew's relationship. Were they a volatile, toxic couple? Did Shay keep their troubles hidden from everyone close to her until it was too late? Is Connor a good boy who was legitimately afraid? We'll talk about all of that next.
Connor does not deserve to be in prison right now. He is an overall great guy.
We had about 40 letters that were written to the judge asking for leniency in his sentencing.
He's got a big heart, and he wouldn't go out of his way to hurt anybody.
It's been a trial full of tears as emotional testimony on the life and death of Andrew Singler plays out in the courtroom.
The prosecuting attorney says Connor made the intentional decision to go to Singler's and knew how serious it was to bring the knife.
Andrew Singler was murdered by the defendant.
I think the prosecution and the family wanted an eye for an eye.
I was in shock. The judge read that the jury found him guilty of second-degree murder.
When I heard the verdict, I was devastated. I just wanted to take him and hold him and keep him with me.
We all yelled, "We love you, Connor. It's not over. We'll continue to fight for you."
Connor McCowan says the night he stabbed his sister's boyfriend, Andrew, that he was punched in the head and that he acted in self-defense. In fact, Connor doesn't use the word stab. He says swiped. So he did not perceive it as having stabbed someone, but instead he described a swiping motion to get him away from him. Did you have a relationship with Andrew that was violent? Was he violent towards you?
He was violent towards me.
Did you tell anyone about that?
I called the police, but then I hung up because I didn't want anybody to know.
So you never made a complaint, and apparently you never told your parents.
No.
Because you feared they would say, that's it, no more, which you would have.
Absolutely.
Did Connor have bruises or cuts or whatever that were documented by photograph that night of having been beaten about the head?
When
by
he came
Andrew?
home to talk to us,
I mean, this is this a picture from that night?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can see above his left eye, there's an abrasion there.
Yep.
He said he got hit on the top
On
of
the
the
top
head,
of
and
his
I
head,
also saw
too.
some scratches below his T-shirt line because he mentioned that, and the witness testimony also states that there was tussling going on. Kind of call it, wrestling, tussling after he'd been assaulted and hit 2 to 3 times is what in the head. Connor said there was one on the top of his head, which nobody documented. But I also saw scratches because he said he had his head down, and he said so he cut him trying to get himself to exit himself from that situation. And the minute that he could, of course, Andrew fell, and then Connor told me the roommate said, "Run," which I said, "Why do you think that was?" And he said, because he thought, okay, now's your time to get away. The roommate was the one that tried to hold Andrew back. He said with all his might, Andrew got past him out into the hallway. Connor was not in the apartment, and the roommate testified he landed a haymaker. So if Connor had a concussion, we don't know how one acts at that point and what they feel in their head that they need to do to get out of that situation. So
Was Andrew armed in any way?
No.
He didn't have a gun
Just
or a
his
knife
fists.
or a
there was a knife right inside the house, but he didn't have it on him. No.
He
no.
entered the building with an open knife in his pocket, inflicted an injury on someone, and left him lying there and ran away and threw away the weapon.
Well, I
get
understand that.
those are non-disputed, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Did you consider calling 911 when he came and woke you up and said, I cut him?
I did not. I'm a dad. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an attorney, I'm not a doctor. I thought, okay, he said he cut him. I said, did you see any blood? He said, no. He fell. I ran to get away from the situation, so immediately tried to contact Andrew. No response, went over there immediately, you know. So I was trying to figure out what was going on. It was 4 in the morning. I just was awoken by this and in shock and not knowing how to handle it.
You say he certainly didn't murder someone, but what did he do wrong here?
I think it would have been smarter for him not to have gone over there.
Turn off the phone, not respond.
Do you think that the jury made the right decision here?
Absolutely not.
This is on appeal?
Yes, sir, we will be appealing that.
Have you spoken to Andrew's parents?
No.
No.
We've reached out on day one. They've denied us any contact.
How is Connor doing?
Horrible. At this point? They've diagnosed him as severely depressed, post-traumatic stress, and so he's not doing well.
My experience, having spent most of my professional career in the court system as a trial science consultant, juries tend to get it right. They just almost always do. And if the result is unjust, it's generally because of what they were told or not told.
Mm-hmm. There's tons they weren't told. So.
All right, we'll be right back. Alicia says her husband never laid a hand on her and never threatened to kill her. She says his verbal and psychological abuse didn't leave bruises, but it hurt just as much. When she finally had the courage to leave him, the unthinkable happened.
Ambushed and almost killed on her way into work.
Last week, Alicia Waters was shot several times by her estranged husband before he killed himself.
Leading up to this deadly day in Fort Thomas, police concluded that Dennis Mathis had become enraged because of his estranged wife, Alicia Waters' relationship with her new boyfriend. The couple was going through a divorce. Police say on the morning of August 6th, Mathis arrived early at the one place where he knew he would find at least Waters, at her job in Fort Thomas.
And from my witnesses, that when she arrived at the scene, he came running from the building between two cars and ambushed her right there in the lot.
Mathis purchased a gun the day before the shooting.
Since being shot 5 times, Alicia Waters continues to heal.
Well, Alicia is not here today. She's not here because she's in the hospital. She's joining us via satellite from Shepherd Center, one of the nation's top rehabilitation hospitals for spinal cord and brain injuries. And Elisa is with her brother, Kurt. So, Elisa, Kurt, I'm glad to meet you and terribly, terribly sorry for the circumstance. Take me through the moment that this happened and you got shot.
I remember everything. I remember walking into my place of employment, and when you walk in, there's an elevator with 3 flights. I, of course, was waiting for the 3rd floor. I kind of felt somebody behind me, and I turned to look, and he was standing behind me with a gun pointed at me, with the most evil look in his eyes that I've ever seen, almost satanic, I guess you could say. And he started shooting, and I fell to the ground. I begged him to stop. He shot a few more times. Thank God the elevator door was open. I managed to get my head to the elevator, let it bang my head against the wall a few times to play dead. I believe he shot me one more time, and the next thing I knew, he had shot himself in the face and fell to the ground.
And this was after a period of time that you had actually gotten away from him, correct?
Yes, sir. I've been gone approximately 5, maybe 5.5 months.
You tried to get a restraining order, but the judge would not grant one. Why?
She said that he was, that he wouldn't harm me, that there was no harm. She saw no reason to grant this.
Because there was no threat of physical violence.
Correct.
Kurt, you look at this from the outside, and it's frustrating to you that the system failed your sister.
Well, of course it is. I mean, she did, in my eyes, everything that she could to prevent the situation from happening. She went and got the EPO, and just because she hadn't been, hit and there was no bruising, it was denied.
Sometimes people just don't understand two things. Number one, that abuse can be just as hurtful if it is verbal and emotional and environmental in terms of being controlled and isolated. And they don't understand how quickly it accelerates from that sort of abuse to physical and life-threatening abuse. And we know that one of the most dangerous times is when you are separated from your abuser. It's called separation assault, because abusers want to control, they want to dominate, they want to be able to get real tight grip on you to make sure you do what you want them to do. And when that grip loosens, then they panic and they go to the next level. They go to something desperate. And Alicia, thank you so much for coming and helping and sharing your story. Take a look at this sweet sentiment from a wife to her spouse. Without you, my life can never be complete. You complete me, my husband. It's Mort and Carrie forever. Well, it warms your heart, doesn't it? Well, here's the bad news. Mort has never spent time with this woman, the woman he believes is his so-called wife, Carrie. Why? Well, according to him, she is trapped in Malaysia and needs $9,000 to get home. Take a look.
I met Carrie on a dating website after my wife passed away. I've had between 1,000 and 1,500 emails from her. She's told me that she wants to be my wife, and I know she's sincere about the whole thing. Carrie's stuck in Malaysia, and she's trying to get back home to me. Our plans are to get married when she gets home. Carrie did ask me for money on the second or third time that I emailed her. I think I've sent Carrie money 500 times. Carrie needed money for her hotel bill, to pay the Malaysian tax on her inheritance, to pay the IRS, the IMF. She needed money for the attorney. She needed money to eat on. The first payments that I sent to Carrie was through local banks. Then I went to Western Union, and then I went to UPS. I sent about $172,000 total to Malaysia trying to get Carrie home. Everybody that I've dealt with has told me that it's a scam. I believe she's real. I believe she's a very nice lady. I really want Carrie to come home. I need her in my life. This will be the greatest present she could ever have, and I can say the same. If I can get her home, I'm sorry.
But Mort's daughters, Kim and Anne Marie, believe their father is being scammed out of thousands of dollars by a catfish, a person who they believe he has never met, even though he claims he has.
I believe my dad is very gullible. If you come to his house to sell him a vacuum cleaner, he's gonna buy it.
I first heard about Carrie about 1.5 years ago.
My dad was looking for a companion. This is a guy who did not know how to turn on a computer prior to this. I definitely called on the whole Carrie story.
I was shocked when I heard he was sending the money. I said, Dad, I'm sorry, but I think this is a scam.
He told me, I wish you would mind your own business because you don't know the whole story.
He truly believed it's not a scam.
I believe that there's 5 guys sitting around a round table high-fiving every time the money arrives. My mom passed away last year. Dad received the $40,000 life insurance policy, and he wired that money to Malaysia. As we speak, her ashes are at the funeral home. We were waiting for that money to buy her headstone.
We haven't buried her yet. We feel really bad about that.
I believe that he is going to continue sending money if we can't prove whether this is a scam or whether she's real.
Okay. Well, Mort, I'm glad to meet you.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that your daughters believe that this person is not real.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what you know about Carrie, who you love. She says she's an only child and that both of her parents are deceased, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's part Malaysian. She went to Malaysia for her mother's funeral, right?
Yeah.
And she inherited $2.75 million?
That's what they say.
And she owns a home in Rapid City, South Dakota.
Right.
Okay. And she's an RN, but she's not working right now. She's unemployed.
She just got through with RN school when I met her or got to know who she was.
Okay. And she's stuck in Malaysia, and she's trying to get the inheritance back to the U.S.
Yeah. Her mom's attorney met her at the funeral and told her about the inheritance.
Mm-hmm. So that was a surprise to her.
Yeah, she had no idea at all that she had any money over there.
How did y'all connect initially?
My wife passed away about 4 years ago, and so I got pretty lonesome. I got on this mating game, and this gal, her profile came up, and she's a nice-looking gal. We kind of started hitting it off, and so at that time, I think I sent her about $6,000 to pay the Malaysian tax, a government tax on her money, and then some money for her to eat on, and she was planning on getting out of there, you know, and coming back.
But yet you say you've met her.
Yeah.
Where'd you meet her?
I went on a service call down at, actually it was east of Rapid City on Interstate, and I emailed her like the day before, and I told her that I was going to be coming through Rapid, and I asked her if she wanted to have lunch together.
This was before she went to Malaysia?
Yeah.
And this is how long?
It's been going on for a year and a half.
And how much have you sent her?
A lot of money.
We're talking about a lot of money here, because if you, in September, you sent her $9,810 because you gave us the records for this stuff. Then in October, $20,000. Then November, $18,000. December, $28,000. January, $5,500. It just kept going along until you get to a total of $138,873. Did you ever decide maybe you just ought to go over there to Malaysia and see about this?
Yeah, I don't have a passport, so.
Well, you can get one for less than $138,000.
I realize
we
that.
go down to the courturhouse and they'll give you one down there for about $1.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's take a break. I got to take a break. I need to take a break. Mort says he was banned by Western Union from wiring any more money to Carrie Davis in Malaysia. So he found another alternative. Find out how he got $21,000 out of the country and why it could land him behind bars. We'll be right back.
I sent cash in magazines using UPS. I would take probably about this many hundreds, put them in an envelope. I packaged this money up like this, sealed the envelopes up, opened the book at about the center of the book, and I taped the envelope into the book so it wouldn't fall out. Then I put another envelope in and taped the third one in there. So if they opened the envelope up and took it out, the money would still be in the book, hoping that Carrie would get this, sent it with UPS. We did it several times. It worked fine.
So you've been smuggling money to her in magazines.
That's what I told him. You don't know if the money's going over there for a drug scam, for prostitution.
But you've been smuggling her money in magazines, right?
Well, yeah, I guess that's what it is.
The penalties for doing that, bulk cash smuggled out of the U.S. without reporting it, is imprisonment for a period of up to 5 years, and they can seize all the money and any of the property associated with the person who's sending the money. They can seize your property, they can seize your farms, they can seize everything, and they're being very, very rigid about this because they don't want people sending money out of the U.S. and getting it to the Taliban or other enemies of the United States. And they take this very seriously at this point.
Absolutely. And UPS has been put on notice. They see this continually. They report that to the federal authorities, and they're actively probably have 100 investigations going right now on this type of smuggling.
Well, I couldn't figure out how he was sending it since he was banned from Western Union and everything else. So I asked our local UPS guy if Dad was sending any packages, and he goes, yes, he is. And he called his supervisor, and I got on the phone with her, and she said that they have been investigating Dad for quite a while.
That's not good. Now, one other thing I needed to share with you, Carrie says she's stuck in Malaysia, right? She says she's stuck there and she's trying to get her $2.5 million inheritance before she returns back to the U.S. But we found that same picture here. This is Carrie, right?
Mm-hmm.
This woman right here that you say you had lunch with in South Dakota, who's now in Malaysia trying to get 5 steel boxes of cash out on a boat, is actually listed on a mail order bride site in the Ukraine. How you reckon that's happening?
I don't know.
By the way, we're showing these pictures knowing that this is probably not the picture of a scammer. Whoever she is, we want her to know her photo is being used to perpetrate a scam. So we're not saying that that person is a bad egg. Mort, it breaks my heart to tell you this, but not one thing about this story confirms to be what you're told it is. Carrie Davis is a made-up persona. I mean, you could do it. You could call yourself Susie Q and go get a picture and cut and paste it up there and start typing stuff up. You've only talked to her essentially once on the phone. The other one didn't connect, and it's I mean, come on. Can you entertain the possibility that this person doesn't exist?
Well, I guess I'll have to believe it. I mean, you've investigated this thing, and all I've done is probably send 1,500 emails to her, and she basically told me that she wants to move over here and get married and bring her all of her money over here and everything. And so.
But you know, the truth is that if that was the case, it would have happened by now, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, I've been going on for a year and a half on this.
And the thing I want you to do is stop sending money.
Well, I'm not going to do it anymore.
And look, they're investigating you. You can't be doing this.
Yeah.
He wants to send 9,000 when we get back.
You do? You want to send 9,000 when you get back?
No. Well, she wanted me to. Yeah.
Carrie did.
It isn't going to happen. You're never going to meet this person because they don't exist. And I don't take pleasure in telling you that.
Yeah, well.
I take pleasure in you stopping sending money. You're a nice man. You don't deserve this. I want you to stop doing this. I got to tell you, you're in front of millions and millions of people right now, a bunch of them from Dakota. I got a sneaking suspicion you may not be as lonely as you were before you came here. Alicia, I know you have an overwhelming amount of medical bills, and when Aflac heard your story, they wanted to help. Aflac provides protection that allows people to focus on recovery because they know they will have money to take care of whatever they need. Now, while you focus on getting better, Aflac stands behind you so that you can stay ahead of your bills. Alicia and Kurt, Aflac wants to give you a check for $25,000 just to help you. There to give you the check is Aflac's Chief Operating Officer, Teresa White. Teresa, thank you so much for being there.
You're just so strong, and we really, really appreciate you sharing your story. And it's just been phenomenal what you've been through, and we hope that this can help you in some small way with your bills.
Thank you very, very much.
So thank you so much, Teresa and Aflac, and also a very special thanks to Doug Kane, former Supervisory Special Agent of the FBI and President of Risk Control Strategies. If you or someone you know is in an abusive relationship and needs help, please call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE. That's 1-800-799-7233. Thank you so much for being here. So long.